Just when you thought that Formula 1 in 2024 couldn't get more exciting and more crazy, then another huge bombshell drops. We thought that Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari was the biggest news story of 2024 so far, but it seems as though it may well have been topped, as now we have learned that Adrian Newey, Formula 1's greatest ever designer, is set to leave Red Bull after almost 20 years with the team. Now this news has effectively come completely out of the blue, because we were certainly not expecting any sort of news revolving around Newey's future with Red Bull. And then in the German media, in Automotor and Sport, they publicised an article confirming that Newey would be leaving Red Bull, that he had effectively told the team that he wanted to leave. And this was then followed up by Autosport confirming this news, and then it was also confirmed by the BBC. So this seems very legitimate, that Newey has decided that his time at Red Bull will be coming to an end, despite the fact that he has a contract until the end of 2025. Now, we always knew that Newey's time at Red Bull would eventually come to an end. It's just the natural circle of everyone's career, whether they're a driver, a team principal, and so on. But it's just the way that this has happened is the way that we were not expecting Newey to cut his ties with Red Bull. He has been there almost 20 years. He joined the team in 2006 from McLaren, and he has been a pivotal part of building Red Bull from this sort of party team that they were when they entered Formula 1 after taking over the Jaguar team at the end of 2004, and turning them into a full-blooded championship winning team, winning multiple world championships, and as the current dominant team in Formula 1 that is breaking records, looking like a completely unbeatable team at times over the past few years. And I don't think that it's unfair to say that Newey is probably the main reason behind Red Bull's success after all these years. Sure enough, you have to give credit to obviously the drivers, Sebastian Vettel in the first Red Bull dominant period in the early 2010s. Obviously currently Max Verstappen, you've got to give him credit. You've got to give credit to Christian Horner for poaching Newey in the first place and bringing him into the team. He knew just how important signing Newey would be, and it would help elevate Red Bull into a championship winning team that could win races, win championships, and so on. You also have to give credit to all of the Red Bull engineers, all of the mechanics, everyone involved in the design team, because they have played just as important a role as Newey has in Red Bull's success over the years. But I think it's just that Newey, as such a huge figure in Formula 1, and all of the success that he's had over his career, both at Williams, McLaren and Red Bull, means that obviously it is likely that you will credit Red Bull's success more towards him than any other person in the team. So if this news does turn out to be true, and Newey does in fact decide that he wants to leave Red Bull, this obviously could be hugely costly for Red Bull going forward, because they're going to lose one of their key figures of the team, and it can also potentially have a knock-on effect. You can have other senior members of the team, possibly drivers and other people that want to leave, and then suddenly Red Bull would find themselves in a position where they're having to rebuild because they've lost so many key people that have made them such a success over the recent years and have played a pivotal part in that success. I mean, we can sort of speculate as to the reason why Newey has decided that now is the right time for him to leave Red Bull, but it does seem as though that actually what has come out of this is that he is unhappy with the current situation at Red Bull that is going on behind the scenes that involves Christian Horner, who obviously was a key part in persuading Newey to join Red Bull in the first place. And it seems as though that situation has sort of possibly unnerved Newey. He doesn't like the way the team is being run at this present point, what is going on behind the scenes in terms of the divide between certain parts of the Red Bull team regarding the owners. There seems that there is a clear divide at the minute, and despite the fact that Red Bull are still the dominant force in Formula 1, it is not proving a very healthy situation for the team. Given just how important Adrian Newey is to Red Bull, this obviously could have huge ramifications for the team if he does choose to leave. Particularly, you have to say, it would obviously revive all of the Max Verstappen to Mercedes rumours that have been swirling around in the F1 media since the start of the year. We know that Max has made it abundantly clear that he does not want there to be any changes to any sort of key figures in the current team, whether that be Helmut Marko or Adrian Newey. He wants it to stay just the way it is because he knows just how important those people are to the current success that the team is enjoying. If they stay in place, they will keep on winning, he will keep on winning, and he will want to stay. We know that he has a contract until the end of 2028, but he certainly is kind of entertaining the idea that if things do change, he will decide to leave. So in a sense, Red Bull should be extremely worried because, of course, they're not just at risk of losing their F1 design guru, they're at risk of losing their best driver. And we know from years gone past that when Adrian Newey leaves a team, that team often struggles to replicate their success in the preceding years after Adrian has left. You go back to his period at Williams. When he was with Williams, Williams was the dominant force in Formula One in the early to mid-90s, and then afterwards they went through a bit of a lull, even though they had a bit of a revival during the BMW years. Williams has not won a world championship since Adrian left the team. It's kind of a similar story with McLaren as well, because when Adrian left to join Red Bull in 2006, they had a winless season in that year. And although they won a world championship with Lewis Hamilton in 2008, that's the only world championship they've won since Adrian left the team. So alarm bells will be ringing at Red Bull. They will look at the situation and be thinking, if Adrian does indeed decide he wants to leave the team, we could suffer the same consequences that both McLaren and Williams did in the past. So that obviously leads us on to what is ultimately the big question. Where does Adrian Newey go if he does decide to leave Red Bull? It does seem as though there are two firm options on the table for him at the moment. One is Ferrari and the other is Aston Martin. Talking about Ferrari, we know that Adrian has mentioned in the past how close he has come to joining Ferrari. Ferrari has obviously tried to poach him in the past, most recently as early as 2014, when of course Adrian was going through a bit of a period where he was sort of disillusioned with Formula One. He wasn't happy sort of with the direction that it had headed in with these new V6 hybrid engines that were introduced in 2014. So that's where he sort of took a step back from being a part of the Red Bull design team and was more focused on projects outside of Formula One. So if Ferrari was finally able to pull this off and get their hands on a man that they had been chasing for the sort of past 25-30 years, it would be huge, because of course it would also tie in with the fact that they have signed Lewis Hamilton for 2025. So with Hamilton and Newey on board, that would surely be the sort of final pieces to the jigsaw that Ferrari need in order to become world champions once again. It has been obviously far too long since their last world championship in 2008, and having the experience and the championship pedigree that both Newey and Hamilton would bring would surely elevate Ferrari to world championship success once again. But in saying that, even though from the outside it seems that Ferrari is the most likely and logical destination for Newey to join if he does leave Red Bull, I don't think you can rule out Aston Martin either, because of course we do know that Aston, or we've learned that they have made a significant offer to Newey to join the team in the future. And what's key for me is that Adrian mentioned on the Beyond the Grid podcast last year of how one of his biggest regrets in his career is that he's never been able to work with Fernando Alonso. Now, of course, Alonso recently re-signed for Aston Martin until the end of 2026, when, of course, Honda will be coming on board, and that will be the start of the new regulations. And those two parts are quite crucial because, of course, Adrian has a great relationship with Honda, obviously having worked with them during the current Red Bull period, and, of course, he will be extremely excited and extremely intrigued by the new regulations. Whenever a new regulation cycle comes around, Adrian always seems to get a real buzz and learning about how he is going to design a new car from scratch. But there is one last crucial factor, and this could have a huge influence on what Newey decides to do with his future, whether he decides to stay in Formula One and join a rival team, or actually ends up deciding that he does not want to stay in Formula One and decides to walk away. And that is having to conduct a period of gardening leave. And this is quite crucial because, of course, Newey's contract expires at the end of 2025. So if he had to do a period of gardening leave at the end of 25, that would mean he couldn't join a new team until the start of 2027, which of course would be the second year of these new regulations. So it's going to be interesting to see if that will have an impact on his decision making as to what he wants to do in the future. But whichever way you look at it, it's going to be huge whatever he decides to do, because of course if he stays in Formula One and joins a rival team, it will be massive, because of course he will prove a huge asset to whoever he decides to join. And then on the flip side, if he leaves Formula One, it'll be a huge loss to the sport. It will leave a gaping hole. He is, without a doubt, Formula One's greatest ever designer. 13 Drivers' Championships, 12 Constructors' Championships. He has done so much for the sport. So how this one will turn out, who knows? But it is certainly worth keeping an eye on. Be sure to let me know what you guys think about the situation in the comment section. Where do you think that Adrian Newey will be going if he does decide to leave Red Bull? But that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget that if you are new around here, to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.